Oh, there it is. Amazing. Thank you. A few housekeeping points before we get started. First off, we do have a little bit of content today, so we'll run through all of that before we go into a Q&A session. So I'm sure you already have loads of questions. If others come up, please just note them down. You can put them in that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And then when we get to that session, we'll be able to go through all of your questions. As you know, we are recording today and we will share both the recording and the slides with you after this, so you have reference to those. Everybody's microphone is currently muted. However, when we do get to that Q&A session, you'll be able to unmute yourself. We'll be able to ask for permission to speak or raise your hand, and we will unmute you, and you can always ask your questions live. Today, taking us through the content is myself. I'm Naseen Watson, a project manager at ChallengeWorks. And I also have my amazing colleague, Dina Ibrahim, with us today, who's also from ChallengeWorks. And as I mentioned when we first started, in today's session, we're going to have a very brief overview of the challenge. And we also have more materials, content from other webinars online. You can go take a look if you want a bit more of a deep dive. However, we'll just give a brief overview, and today we'll focus much more on the Q&A, give everybody more time to ask questions. So I'll get us started to make sure we are as efficient as possible and take us through what we mean by the Sustainable Cities Challenge Varanasi. So the Sustainable Cities Challenge as a whole is an open innovation competition, and it aims to harness the power of creativity and energy of innovation in order to improve access to safe, equitable, and sustainable mobility solutions for all. And we're doing that through 3 different open innovation challenges, where we've partnered with 3 global cities, one of which is Detroit, and that's focusing more on reducing fossil fuel use for freight. There's Venice, which is looking for solutions that will change the behavior of its residents to enable them to adopt more low and zero carbon modes of transport. And then, of course, we have Varanasi, which is all about innovating crowd flow and creating these data-driven solutions that will make the crowded areas of Varanasi safer and more accessible. And so for today's webinar, we are focused on Varanasi, not Venice. But if you are interested in Detroit or Venice, you can always go to our website and you can find more materials about those 2 challenges. So in Varanasi, why do we have this Open Innovation Challenge? What is the problem that we are trying to solve? And I've mentioned this briefly, but to give a little bit more context, in Varanasi, we specifically have Kashi, which is an older area of the city. It has these narrow, winding lanes that make it very difficult to build more infrastructure to accommodate more people. So just building more infrastructure, creating bigger roads or bigger pathways just isn't very feasible. We also do have vulnerable populations, including older people, those with disabilities, people with mobility issues who do have to navigate the city. Sorry. And when it gets crowded, that becomes particularly difficult for them. Kashi, again, does get immensely crowded, in particular around holy festivals. I think in one year, there was around 32 times the local population coming into the city. So you can imagine the influx that represents. And of course, with more and more people being able to attend these holy events or these spiritual events, which is great on the one hand, but on the other hand, it does lead to an increased risk of things like stampedes or crushes. And we have recent examples, for example, from Hathra district in Uttar Pradesh, where there were over 120 deaths. So not only is it difficult for people with disabilities to move around, it does on occasion lead to the risk of serious injury within these areas. So what kinds of solutions are we looking for that could potentially address these problems? First of all, we are looking for solutions that will enable more effective crowd management and that could contribute to the enhancement or preservation of the spiritual and cultural experience of the city. And as I mentioned, you can't really go into Kashi and change the way it looks, and nobody would want that. The city wouldn't want that. The people who live there and work there wouldn't want that, because that is part of the charm of the city and part of the reason why people actually go to Varanasi. We also are considering solutions that could improve citizen decision making and really empower the people on the ground to be able to move around safely and have the data that they need or the information they need to do that. And we're also looking at solutions that could support those vulnerable groups who find it difficult when they do need to navigate when it does get busy. And we've consolidated all of that into a challenge statement. And a challenge statement is our call for action to you as innovators, and it articulates what the challenge's aims are, as well as the desired specific outcomes we're looking for, without telling you exactly how. So we're not telling anybody what kind of solution they need to produce. We're really focusing on impact and outcomes. And because the challenge statement consolidates the challenge really nicely, and it is such an important article of this challenge, I'm actually just going to read it out. So we are looking for innovators to create innovative, data-driven solutions that make crowded areas of Varanasi's old city of Kashi safer and more accessible for religious tourists, for local residents, and for vulnerable populations such as the elderly and people with disabilities. Those solutions might include tools that support the city to better manage overcrowding events, interventions that improve citizen decision-making, and/or services that support vulnerable groups. So those are different elements that you could think about when you're thinking about potential solutions to this challenge. So now that we've had that overview of the problem and what we're looking for, we'll just very briefly look at the structure and timeline and what this program will look like over the next couple of years. So as you know, the challenge has launched. It's open for entries. It'll close for entries in September, and then we will go through a period of selection. And I'll take you through the judging criteria in a little bit and how we're going to do that selection. Whoever best meets the judging criteria and has the most potential for impact will be selected as a semi-finalist. And you will be selecting up to 10 semi-finalists. Once you're selected, you will be sent an innovator agreement. You'll have around 1 week to review it and sign it. And then we'll go into that semi-finalist period. We'll also have an academy that will take place within Varanasi. So if you are entering, do keep in mind that in December, you might need to travel to Varanasi and start to think about what that might mean for you, depending on where you're based. So everybody will come to Varanasi and then get to experience the city, get to speak with different stakeholders to enable you to adapt your solution more to the local context. Once you've had that period of time to develop, work on your solution a bit more, we'll then have a second stage submission where you once again submit your progress you've made, how you've adapted your solution, how you're beginning to demonstrate impact, and then we'll go through another selection process and we'll select up to 5 finalists who will then go on to the demonstration and refinement of their solutions, and that could include larger piloting demonstrations. And then once you've had that opportunity to demonstrate impact for your solution and continue to refine it and work on it, we'll then have a final selection process where we'll select up to 3 winners who will then go on to continue to implement their solutions within the city of Varanasi. And each of these different stages have different grant amounts attached to them. So if you're selected as a semi-finalist, you'll receive a grant of around $50,000, $130,000 for finalists, and up to $1.5 million shared with up to 3 winners. And something to note is that all of the implementation grant funding, all the way from the semi-final stage to the winning stage, does need to be used for your solutions and for developing it, testing it, and finally implementing it within Varanasi. You can't use it for any other purposes. However, that does include things like travel, it includes staff time, it includes any purchases you need to make, anything that will support your solution. And just a note to highlight that academy again, just keep that in mind as you enter. And I'll just go into the eligibility criteria. So as you are entering the challenge, keep in mind that we do have this criteria that articulates who can enter the challenge. I'll go through it very quickly, but this isn't the Innovator Handbook. You can go and take a look at it at your own time and let us know if you have questions. So firstly, the solutions do need to be tailored specifically for Varanasi. You can be a single organization. You can also enter as a consortia or with a partnership of organizations. If you are a consortia, if you have multiple organizations, you do need to pick a lead entrant, and that lead entrant will enter into contract with the Toyota Mobility Foundation and receive funding from them. You do need to be a legally incorporated organization to enter. And while the challenge is open to innovators worldwide, you do need to have a presence in India. So that does mean that in some cases, if you're an international company based somewhere else, you might need to look to partner with an organization in India or establish yourself in India in some way. As I said, this challenge is open to innovators worldwide, but entries do need to be in English, and you need to be able to operate in English as well with the challenge team once you enter. You need to be able to travel and operate within the city of Varanasi if you're selected. You need to be able to work with the local government. That's very important. And then finally, you need to be able to use or own any intellectual property that is associated with your solution. So a very quick overview, but do take the time to read through it. Let us know if you have questions. And I mentioned the judging criteria, and this really highlights and communicates to you as an innovator how exactly we are going to be selecting the semi-finalists that will be taking part. So we have 5 key criteria here. The first is innovation, which this is an open innovation competition. So we are looking for solutions that are different from what has already been tried in Varanasi. And that could be something that's completely brand new or that you have tailored or adapted from another context. Your solution also does need to be tailored to the unique needs of the city and consider and have maybe creative multidisciplinary approaches to addressing that problem. It does need to be effective, so we are, of course, looking for solutions that are going to have an impact and actually increase the safety and accessibility. We are looking for solutions that are data-driven and based on evidence. And of course, your solution does need to be viable beyond the lifespan of the challenge. So we would hope that all of the finalists, semi-finalists, and winners would be able to continue with their solution beyond the challenge. And so your solutions wouldn't just end with the challenge. So do consider that potential to scale, the potential to be replicated, and any kind of business models or operational models that would ensure that viability. And then finally, team capacity. Do you actually have the resources you need to do what you've said that you're going to do? And just to note that at this entry stage, we understand that for things like team capacity, you might not have your full team yet. You might say that for your solution, I need this and this and this expertise, but I don't have it yet. So you can just tell us that and tell us what your plan is to actually get that expertise. So having a plan at this stage is completely okay and viable. Even for data, you might have assumptions right now that these are some of the key assumptions based on the problem and based on my knowledge of overcrowding, crowded areas, but I don't actually know the exact specific situation in Varanasi right now, and that's also okay. So you can just lay out your assumptions and tell us how you're going to validate those assumptions. You can also let us know what kinds of data you might need in the semi-finalist stage, and that would be useful for us as well to understand what kind of support that we can give you as a semi-finalist. So just to make you feel a bit more comfortable that you don't need to have all of the answers right now. You just need to have a plan that if you're selected, how are you actually going to answer some of the questions that you may have in order to develop your solution. And with that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Dina to take us through how to enter.
Okay. Thank you, Naseen, for the introduction. I hope you guys were listening very well to her and to the challenge statements and to the judging criteria, which are very important. So the next part, we're going to see how to enter this challenge. For the entry process, it will be the 5th of September, 6 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So you guys have to fill and submit your entries before that time. So you make sure that all you need is ready, all your information are logged in, and everything is ready for the submission. When you go into our website, you will find the online entry form. You can download the entry form as a PDF. And before you submit, please go and read and understand the challenge terms and conditions, the privacy policy, the eligibility criteria, the challenge statement, and the judging criteria. And we suggest that you go through them now, because if you have any questions before submitting your solutions and your innovations, you can ask us via email, or you can book a one-on-one session to go through that, and we can answer all your questions, all the questions you have. Next slide, please. Okay, so when you go into our website for the Varanasi City Challenge, you will find this button that says Enter Now, and it will take you to an online platform called Submittable. This is where you will submit your entry. Submittable is fairly easy to navigate, and it will just give you the forms to fill, the forms needed to fill for this challenge. Next, okay. For the first form that you have to fill it's the eligibility form. And as Nassine said, the eligibility criteria are very important. You have to go through it, and you have to meet all of them in order to be eligible for this challenge. And the first thing it will be directed to is the eligibility form. It's a simple multi-choice to confirm just your eligibility, just questions, where will solution be implemented in the city of Varanasi, in wider areas of Varanasi, elsewhere. Are you entering as an established, legally incorporated organization? Are you entering as a single organization or a consortia of organizations? And it will give you also highlights that you need to enter before, as I said, 6 p.m. Indian Standard Time on the Thursday, September 5th. And as I said, it's a simple form. You just have to click it. Okay. Thank you, Nassine. Okay, the second part of it, it has the entry form. It has 4 parts, and you will be judged against only one part, which is the solution part. The first part is your details. You will have to enter. You have to confirm first that you read the policy and the terms of conditions, and the privacy policy and the terms of conditions, and you confirm that if you have a partner, you read the eligibility criteria. First, you will need to name the lead organization. So if you are one organization, you will just write the name of your organization. If you are a consortia of organizations, you will, as we said, you will have to name only one organization that will be the lead, because that organization will be going into legal contract with TMF. And then you will have to tell us the type of organization. Are you a nonprofit? Are you a startup? Are you a small company? Other types of companies. Again, it's just a multiple choice form. You will just have to click on the answers that you need. The second part of the entry, this is the most important part. This is the part you will be judged against. This is your solution. Here, you will have to give us your solution details. First, just the solution title. What were you going to call your innovation? In one sentence, give us a description or like a purpose of this solution. You can give it, you can tell us whether it's a technology, whether it's urban planning, whether it is a behavioral change, whatever you want to call this innovation. And then in more details, you have to describe your solution. Your limit is 200 words. Just keep that in mind. Give us the most important information. And this is a part where it's optional, but it will help you actually a lot if you would like to do it. It's a video. You can attach a video, like a 3-minute video. It's a 3-minute video you can attach to describe and explain your solution. And just keep in mind that this video is not a substitute for the more detailed section. If you feel like giving a video, you will also have to give us a detailed description of your solution. The second part is, the third part is additional information. This part will also help us in our impact reporting and due diligence. This section will not be assessed. The only section, as I said, that will be assessed, the previous section, which is your solution, the second section. Here, it will just also help us understand your solution and your entry better. So take a look at that, also enter the information, all of the information you need. As you can see, it's a multiple choice, the solution current level of readiness, and then if you feel, as Nassim said, you can also give us details about how, okay, this is the current status of my solution, but I'm envisioning that I can be able to take it to the next level doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As always, Nassim says, give us all your assumptions, and then moving forward, you can make the assumptions real based on whatever data you need in the future. And then there's also, after that, so there is the declaration that you have to declare that all the information that you have entered are true and correct to your best knowledge, okay? Submittable is, as I said, is an online platform. You can draft your entries as soon as today if you want, and you can save it, but we also encourage people to copy and paste their information on another, like a Word file or another offline file, because you never know with the internet and its problems. But you can always have your draft ready and submittable, and you can always come back to them day after day to update them, change something, change the wording or whatever you want, and just make sure that you submit on the 5th of September before 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Okay. And as I explained now, the process is fairly simple, but if you have any questions, please go to our website. You can book one-on-one sessions. You can always email us with any questions you have, and we will be able to help you navigate that and help you make your entry more clearer and clearer. And you can see here that, yeah, you can just also, as I said, book one-on-one sessions, go our website, and email us with any questions you have. And now we can go into our Q&A session. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and we will unmute your mic so you can answer, so you can ask your questions. And you can always write your questions in the Q&A section, as you can see in the chat, and we will be able to take them. Thank you. So now we'll just be waiting for your questions. We got our first question. So would we be receiving a copy of the recording? Yes, you will be. I will be sending an email tomorrow with the recording of this webinar and a copy of the presentation that we just gave. So you will be receiving a copy of that. And there will also be a copy of the recording on our website, the Sustainable Cities Challenge website, the VARANASI page. You will be able to find the recordings there. I hope this suffices the answer. Okay. Our next question from Nikita is, describe how you plan to ensure you will comply with any legal or regulatory requirements needed to demonstrate and test your solution in Varanasi by the final stage of the challenge. Can you explain exactly what you want us to speak about? I think this question can go to Nassim.
So it really depends on where your solution is based and what you're doing right now. So if you are already working in Varanasi on your solution, then you are probably already compliant with all the regulations you need to be, and you can just mention that. However, if this is either a new solution or you're not yet in Varanasi, you can do a bit of research, think through, are there any environmental regulations that might apply to my solution? Are there any data privacy regulations that might apply to my solution? And then once you are selected as semi-finalist stage, you have that opportunity to do research on that. So it's about you putting together a plan. Like, if I'm selected, these are the types of regulations that might apply to my solution. and I'll try and ensure that I am compliant to them by the final stage by, first of all, researching them, maybe engaging with different partners on the ground, different stakeholders, asking them for their experiences, and so on. But yeah, Kriti, Vishal, anything to add on that from your experiences?
Yes, so with regard to legal or regulatory requirements, I think like Nasseen said, it depends on where your solution is currently based. So the only thing that I would recommend, additional to what Nasseen already said, is please look through. I mean, depending on what your solution is, please look through data protection regulation, as well as disaster management and evacuation regulations and guidelines that have been provided by the government in India, and specifically the state of Uttar Pradesh. And just make sure that these are points that you take into consideration when you're developing your solution.
Okay.
And essentially,
Yeah.
the question was, can you explain exactly what you want us to speak about over here? In your application, please mention the kind of research you've done into the existing regulations that your solution kind of interacts with, and kind of talk about how you're in alignment with these. Sorry, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Kriti. Vishal, do you want to join or say
Yes.
something?
Right. Sorry,
Yeah.
just one last point. Also, as far as incorporation of an organization goes, if you're an Indian-based entity, then having documentation in place like a GST number, etc., is also essential. So, I mean, just some of those things as well.
Okay, thank you, Vishal. I see that Mayanak has their hands up, so I'm then gonna allow them to answer their question.
Right, Mayank. So, if we have, there is a link that is uploaded, and I'm not sure, Dina, if you can put the link
Okay,
on the
sure.
site. But there is a link that is uploaded with the spatial layers of the two precincts, right? Now, also in the entrant handbook, you will find the description of the two precincts. And if you do some sort of, and the two precincts are, both of them are equally crowded, and both of them have a large part of the are in the old city, but also fundamentally the nature of crowding is different. One is the Dashashwamedh precinct, the other is the Gadolia precinct, right? So one is a very busy market street, one is a place where people tend to congregate for religious activities. So some sort of background research on these precincts will also be helpful, which will inform your selection of based on the solution and your thinking. It will inform which precinct you can pick.
Thank
I
you.
hope that answers the question. Yeah.
I see that you have your hand up. Mayanak, do you want to ask questions now live? Hello?
Mayank, if you want to unmute yourself, then we can just take all
Yeah.
of your questions. But if you're unable to unmute, then we can just proceed
Yeah.
with. Yeah. Yeah. For the site survey, I think Mayank asks, can we do some sort of site survey? Whom to approach for the site survey support? So, I mean, you can undertake some sort of survey that will inform your solution or your proposal. Unfortunately, as far as support is concerned, I think that will have to be done on your own account. If there is any kind of permission that is required, then we might be able to facilitate that kind of permission. So as far as any support goes, I think WRI and TMF will be able to, and challengers will be able to facilitate permissions required for that, right? So some things might be more complex than others. For example, there are very strict restrictions on on flying drones within the old city with a payload, and that might take longer than usual. But if you have to do surveys in terms of like speaking with people, having doing focus group discussions or capturing information from through some sort of sample survey, then that can be very easily facilitated.
Thank you.
Also want to add in here that please feel free to use the grant amount for your ground survey and market research. That is what it's meant for, specifically during the semi-final stage. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, thank you, Kriti and Vishal. Okay, there is another question that we understand that we need to leverage video feed from existing solution. Will authorities allow us to leverage video feed from existing cameras at later stage once this challenge is in its final stages?
So the short answer to that is yes. Sorry, will the authorities allow us to leverage video feed from the existing cameras in later station? Yes. So I mean, if you specifically have a solution that undertakes analysis on video feed, then even for the demonstration, you will have we will work with the authorities to make some video footage, archived video footage available to demonstrate your solution. At a later point in time, when you have to scale up your solution, not beyond the precinct. This is beyond 2026, when the pot of $1.5 million will be shared between three to five sort of winning applications or winning entrants. Then we will be working with the government to deploy this on live video footage.
Thank you, Vishal. Another question from an anonymous, when can we get the present spatial data? The link in the updated interim book is not working. I think Nassine, you can take this one.
Yeah, so you may have seen a note in the Engine Handbook that once you click on the link, you will need to ask for permission to be able to access that data. And that's just to ensure that the city is able to understand who has access to the data. So once you request permission, that should be granted within a few days. But if there's anything else that's wrong with the link, feel free to email us. We can send you the link directly as well, but it should be working for everybody.
Okay, thank you, Nassine. Kindly send me a recording of this webinar. I missed the initial. As I said, there will be a post email that will have the webinar recording and the slides. So don't worry, you will have it. And then you can also go to our website and find the recordings. Okay, thank you, Judy. Okay, another question. Will there be any support in terms of facilitating infra, camera, servers, network poles, setting it up and commission it? Yeah, Vishal, Kriti. Vishal, okay.
Yeah. So we will be so to set up your own cameras in the city will also require some sort of permissions. We will be facilitating those permissions. For as far as servers are concerned, you'll be required to either look at server space of your own, or what we will do is we'll attempt to speak with the city to see if some of their server space can be used, but please allow us some time to get back to you on this.
Yes, the only point I would like to add over here is, like Vishal said, that we can support with getting permission to install your own equipment, sensors or cameras. However, this of course may take some time. So we aren't guaranteeing too much, but we will definitely work with you and with the city to help you install your cameras.
Thank you, Kriti and Vishal. We still have more time, guys, if you have any more questions. Yeah, we're getting questions. Okay. Can we use the ground amount towards equipment and call server credits?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
It's a short answer, yes.
Short answer, yes, exactly. As I said, we still have more time, guys, and as long as we have Kriti and Vishal with us, ask us your questions or raise your hand. Mayarak, I see that you still have your hand up. Do you still have a question to ask, or is it an old hand? Okay, old hand. Okay. And if you feel like you haven't asked your question, you can always go to the FAQs part in our website. We always update it frequently with all the questions we're getting. So if you have a question that you feel like it's frequent or you don't understand how is it going, please go to the website, see the questions. And if you didn't find time to ask us your question here, email us or feel free to book a one-on-one session with us to answer your questions, and look forward to the next webinars if you haven't been able to fully attend this one or you came in late. Okay. Nassine, since we're not receiving any more questions.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like any more coming in, so we might wrap it up soon. As Dina already mentioned all of this, there's definitely book the one-to-ones, especially as we get closer to the deadline. Just allow you to ask us any specific questions. So even if you don't have anything to ask right now, you can always preemptively book one a little bit later on, so that once you're ready to submit, you have that time. We're always here to answer your questions by email as well. So definitely send those in, but otherwise, as nothing seems to be coming in, I think we can end a bit early, give everyone a bit more time back.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone for,
Oh,
we do have one more question.
we have more question, yeah. Okay, what kind of services are expected to support vulnerable groups?
That is a good question. Oh, Preeti, I'll give Preeti to answer first.
Okay. So Varanasi, if you, I'm not sure where you're from, but if you read a little bit about Varanasi, you'll see that the kind of people who visit the city are quite unique. One is, of course, it has immense cultural significance in India among Hindus, specifically with regards to people coming to the city to conduct end-of-life rituals and other end-of-life activities. Also, the city as such has plays, a very key role, among Hindus as well, where they say that if you visit the city at any point in time during your lifetime, it helps you gain salvation. So the kind of people that come to the city, the demography of the people that come to the city is quite unique. You will see that there are people who are much older as well as much younger, of course. People who come with their families, the motivation that they come with is quite different. With regard to vulnerable groups, we're talking about potentially people who are much older in age. We're talking about women. We're talking about families with children. We're also talking about people with disabilities. These may be mobility-related disabilities, visual impairments, people who may be deaf, or others as well. So the kind of support that you can provide them is to help them go on with their lives, or visit the city and experience all that they came to the city to experience in a safe and accessible manner. So I think that's what I would say. So your solution for different kinds of people may be different. So it depends on which vulnerable group you would like to select. Nassine and Vishal, if you'd like to add.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Preeti said. It's exactly right. And just to re-emphasize that we don't dictate the how, we care a lot more about the impact. But when it does come to, and I'm sure that you know this as well, developing a solution for a particular group of people, being able to engage with them and design for them is going to be really important. And being able to use that almost human-centered design approach, or design thinking approaches where, yes, you have your idea of what you want to do, but you might need to change it based on the actual interactions on the ground, being open to being quite flexible and iterative in your process would be quite important to make sure that you're designing something that is workable for the people you're working with.
Thank you, Kriti and Nassine. Any last minute questions? Okay, it doesn't seem like we're getting more questions. As Nassim said, we will just keep repeating to you guys. Okay, you have a question. Okay, in the first webinar, you highlighted the ideal solution has to be tech-oriented. So an urban design improvement fall in that category.
So in terms of tech-oriented, it definitely needs to be data-driven. How much that turns into fully tech-oriented, I think really depends, but definitely Preeti Vishal, let me know your views on that. In terms of urban design improvement, we've said several times that we definitely can't change, of course, the infrastructure in the city. That's out of scope. But if there are other types of urban design that are feasible within that context, that are workable, that's definitely would be within scope for the challenge. And I'd actually encourage whoever wrote this question to maybe book a one-to-one because it'd be interesting to hear a bit more about what you're thinking about. But yeah, Kriti, Vishal, anything else to add?
Just to add to what Naseem said, I mean, maybe think of the solution as two kinds of solution, right? So it can either be a tech-first solution or a design-first solution. One of the things that needs to be kept in mind is the fact that there needs to be a movement in or we need to move the needle in how either the city manages its crowds or plans for large crowding events, or how its citizens and different citizen groups access different parts of the city. Right now, that can be achieved because, and the reason we are saying you can think of a tech first or a design first solution is because overcrowding is a multi-dimensional sort of issue and a complex problem at that, and therefore you need if we have the best chance of addressing it if you bring about a multi-dimensional thinking towards solutioning for this problem. So urban design purely theoretically might not fall under a tech category, but the urban design still informs the design of spaces. It is still data driven in that sense, right? So one of the things that we emphasize on more than it being a purely tech driven solution is the fact that it needs to be evidence driven or data driven. Chrissy, if you have any thoughts.
Yeah. So the only other point that I would add to that is please have a look at our judging criteria. One of our criteria is to ensure the adaptability of the solution. So when we talk about adaptability, it may be short and long term. Short term in terms of changes in the number of people who are coming to the city for different kinds of occasions. On a regular Monday, you have a different kind of a crowd versus for a special event like your Deepavali or any other event, you have a different kind and volume of density of a crowd. That is in the short term, but in the longer term, the city is also already planning several larger infrastructural changes. So whatever solution you develop needs to be able to adapt to these ebbs and flows, these different changes that are coming up in the city. So please make sure that whatever kind of solution you develop is adaptable to these changes.
Thank you, Kriti and Vishal. We got another question from Rahul. Hello, Rahul. Is smart parking and EV charging solution fall under the scope of the challenge? Yassine or Vishal? Vishal, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Rahul. I mean, the problem statement over here does not heavily focus on vehicular congestion. It more focuses on the bigger focus or the larger focus is more on people congestion and people movement, right? So as far as the involvement of vehicles is concerned, I think the only place it features is looking at conflict points between human movement and vehicular movement. So at least from where I stand, smart parking might not particularly address the problem of overcrowding in the old part of the city where vehicles are not even permitted to enter, because I mean, not just permitted, it's just that the geography is such that the vehicles are unable to enter, right? Kriti, Naseem, if you guys have thoughts about this.
Nothing additional. Oh, sorry, Kriti.
Yeah, nothing additional to add. It might actually be interesting to hear more about your solution, Rahul. So please feel free to book a session with us, and maybe we can talk through what your solution is about.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Kriti Kuchar, for answering. Okay, guys, we have a couple of more minutes to go. We have a question. Oh, you're welcome, Rahul. Okay. As I said, we have a couple of more minutes for questions. If you guys have any more questions, write them in the queue. Okay. How to book a session with you? Okay, I will just give you now the link, Rahul, and you can go on our website and you will find the links to how to book a one-on-one session, and the session will be with Vital, Kriti, Nitin, or whoever is available to answer your questions. Okay, we got a question. Based on site survey and data collection, if things are identified which suggest change to what administration is already doing, can we include those suggestions as part of the data solution? Vital, Kriti. Okay.
I think again the short answer is yes over here. But if I understand your question correctly, you're saying based on data collection, things are identified which suggest changes for what administration is ordering, can include the suggestion as a part of a data solution. Crowd counting, right? So I mean, right, but essentially, we're looking for like a more, I think what the city is also looking for is a more comprehensive solution, right? So is there a system that is able to count people that enter through different entry points into a particular area, and what are you doing with that counts, right? So if that has to translate into actionable insights, at what point do you say that and that the inflow is beyond a certain threshold and therefore something needs to be done about it? What is that actionable insight, right? So we are looking for a more rounded solution. Priti, if you have, or Naseem, if you have thoughts about this.
I would completely agree, and I would just add on to say that I think, and Preeti Vishal definitely come on in this as well, that suggestions, yeah, those seem fine, but in terms of, I don't think you should rely on um your whole solution hinged upon the administration doing something, because there's no guarantee. Like, each city has their own policies, their own strategies, so you might have a suggestion for them, they might take it, they might not. So you shouldn't hinge your whole solution on the administration doing something. You should have some independence in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we started off this conversation saying that, we need, there's no one solution that's going to solve this entire problem. It's a multidisciplinary kind of a solution that is required, which means that we all need to work in collaboration with one another. So if your data does highlight some regulatory changes or changes that need to be made by the city, definitely pass it on to us and we will share it with them. But at the end of the day, like Naseem said, we will try to make sure that all your suggestions are kind of layered on in addition to your solution to give you like that the perfect environment to execute. However, this is dependent on whether the city would like to execute that recommendation or not. So we don't know what that recommendation is going to be. So I think we'll have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Kriti and Vishal. Another question, cases like crowd counting entry to restricted areas can be viable?
I think that was a continuation to the previous question.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul. We have another question. Is there any common group of platform where we could connect with other participants or people who are interested in this competition? Maxine?
Right now, there isn't any kind of common platform. However, you can always email us if you want to connect with other potential participants. And then if somebody else is interested in connecting, we can try and connect you. But because of data protection, we can't give you the contacts with someone who hasn't already agreed to have their contacts shared. So unfortunately, there isn't a specific platform, but do just let us know if you're happy to have your information shared. And then if there's anybody else of the same, we can put you in contact with each other.
Yeah. And I think also when you are in the semi-finalist stage, they will, as Nassine mentioned earlier, there will be the academies in Varanasi, and then there you will have a chance to meet the other semi-finalists and other stakeholders and get to know them and discuss whatever ideas you guys might have or concerns. Okay. Okay, last minutes. Any questions? I have shared the link for the one-on-one sessions and the email address that has my colleague Iqbal thankfully shares earlier. I'm just resharing it again with you guys. I don't see any more questions coming up. Okay. Nothing, Kriti, Vishal, I think we can end it today. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for attending. As we said, if you have any questions, let us know. Oh, we have a question. Oh, okay, thank you. It was just a thank you. You're welcome. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. I will be sharing this recording and the slides with you shortly. And have a good day.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.